The stars looked different from this far out. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Pathfinder, watching the endless darkness of space through the view screen. Her crew of 43 had been traveling for 6 months, mapping unknown systems at the edge of what humans called the frontier. "Captain, we're picking up something on long-range sensors," Lieutenant Marcus Webb called from his station. His voice carried a note of excitement that made everyone on the bridge look up. Sarah moved to his console and studied the readings. A ship, a big one, and it was moving toward them at incredible speed. "How big?" she asked. "3 times our size, maybe more," Marcus replied. He tapped a few buttons and frowned. "Captain, that's not human technology. The energy signature is completely different from anything in our database." Sarah felt her heart beat faster. For 50 years, humanity had been searching for alien life. They had found dead worlds, ancient ruins, and mysterious signals, but never a living alien civilization. Never a ship like this. "All hands to stations," she ordered. Her voice stayed calm, even though her mind was racing. "Charge defensive systems. Don't aim weapons at them, but be ready. Martinez, prepare a first contact package. Standard greetings in all Earth languages, plus mathematics." The crew moved quickly. Everyone knew what this moment meant. First contact. The moment humanity would learn they were not alone in the universe. The alien ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel right in front of them. It was huge, covered in dark metal that seemed to drink in the starlight. Strange symbols glowed along its hull in colors Sarah had never seen before, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Chen reported. No relation to the captain despite the shared name. Audio only. "Put it through," Sarah ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was harsh and clicking, like insects fighting inside a metal can. Then the translation software kicked in, converting the alien sounds into English. "Primitive vessel, you will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. This space belongs to the Vraxian Empire. You are trespassing." Sarah exchanged looks with her first officer, Commander James Park. His expression mirrored what she felt. This was not the friendly first contact humanity had hoped for. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Pathfinder," she replied, keeping her voice steady and professional. "We come in peace. We didn't know this space was claimed. We're explorers from Earth, making our first journeys beyond our home system. We mean no harm and no disrespect." Silence. Then the clicking voice returned, but this time it sounded amused. That was worse somehow. "Earth? We have no record of Earth. Your vessel uses crude, faster-than-light technology, version 2.3 generation drives, if our scans are correct. You are a precon species that somehow stumbled into space travel." The voice paused. "How entertaining. We achieved faster-than-light travel 3 years ago," Sarah said carefully. "We're still learning. If we've entered your territory by mistake, we apologize. We'll leave immediately." "You misunderstand your situation, human," the alien voice said. The clicking sounds now seemed like laughter. "The Vraxian Empire owns this entire sector. You do not leave until we grant permission. You will shut down your weapons, open your airlocks, and allow our boarding party to educate you on proper protocols. All species must learn their place in our empire." James leaned close to Sarah and whispered, "Captain, their weapons are charging. Multiple targeting locks on our ship." Sarah's jaw tightened. First contact. Humanity's first meeting with aliens. And they were bullies. "We will not be boarded," Sarah said clearly. "We're willing to communicate. We're willing to learn, but we will not surrender our ship to you. We've done nothing wrong. Your defiance is noted." The Vraxian voice replied, cold now. "Perhaps you need a demonstration of why all species submit to our empire." "Captain, they're firing," Marcus shouted. The ship rocked. Alarms screamed through every corridor. The lights flickered as power systems struggled to compensate. "Damage report," Sarah called out, gripping the command chair as another impact shook the deck. "Direct hit to the medical bay," James reported, his face pale as he read the casualty list scrolling across his screen. "Section 7 is venting atmosphere. Emergency bulkhead sealing. Captain." His voice broke. 17 dead. Medical staff and 3 patients who were in surgery. 17 people. 17 of her crew. Dead in seconds because these aliens wanted to teach them a lesson. Sarah looked at the alien ship on the view screen. Rage burned in her chest, hot and fierce. But she was still a captain, still responsible for the 26 people still alive on her ship. Seal all sections. Emergency power to engines, she ordered. Plot a jump back to Earth. Maximum speed. They're hailing again. Communications reported. Put it through. That was a warning, human. The next shot will destroy your engines. Submit now, or we will take your ship as salvage and your crew as prisoners. Sarah made a decision. The kind of decision that would either save her crew or doom them all. Lieutenant Webb, open a direct channel. Full power. I want Earth to hear this. Channel open. Captain Sarah stood straight, looking directly at the view screen and the Vraxian ship beyond it. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Pathfinder to Earth Command. We have made first contact with an alien species called the Vraxian Empire. They fired on us without provocation. They killed 17 of my crew. They demand our surrender. She paused, making sure every word was clear. Earth Command. These aliens think we're weak. They think we'll bow down because they have bigger ships. They're wrong. Captain, they're charging weapons again, Marcus warned. Sarah ignored him. She kept her eyes on the screen and continued her message. Earth Command. I'm transmitting all our sensor data on their ship, their weapons, their technology. Study it, learn from it, because we are not going to submit. She took a breath. To the Vraxian Empire, I say this. You just made a terrible mistake. You killed 17 human beings who came in peace. You attacked explorers who meant you no harm. Humans don't forget. Humans don't forgive. We'll be back. And when we come back, you'll learn that humanity doesn't bow to anyone. Foolish primitive. The Vraxian voice hissed. Your species will be crushed beneath our empire. You will serve, or you will die. Jump drive charged, Marcus reported. Do it, Sarah ordered. Get us home. The Pathfinder tore open a hole in space and disappeared, leaving the Vraxian ship alone in the darkness. Inside the alien vessel, Contact Officer Zerain clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. He dictated his report to the ship's computer with casual disinterest, with countered primitive species designation. Human from planet Earth. Species achieved basic FTL travel through apparent accidental discovery. Crude technology, at least 50 years behind standard Empire requirements. Species shows defiance, typical of primitives who don't understand their position in the galactic order. Recommended action. Subjugation force of standard size. 500 ships should be more than sufficient. This species will be absorbed into the Empire within one solar cycle. He closed the report and forgot about the humans. They were one more primitive species in a galaxy full of them. The Vraxian Empire had conquered thousands of worlds. Earth would be no different. Zethra had no way of knowing how wrong he was. On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Richard Torres received Captain Chen's transmission. He listened to her words. He reviewed the sensor data. He saw the footage of the Pathfinder medical bay exploding. 17 good people dying in fire and vacuum. Then he picked up his phone and made a call he had hoped he would never need to make. This is Admiral Torres. Authorization code Alpha 77 Omega. Activate Protocol Shepherd's Watch. Notify all nations. First contact has occurred. Hostile contact. I repeat, hostile contact. Around the world in secret facilities that officially didn't exist, lights began to turn on. Computers that had been waiting in standby mode for 50 years started to wake up. Deep space monitoring stations that were supposed to be watching for asteroids began tracking something entirely different. And in orbital shipyards that the public thought were building transport vessels and space stations, other ships began to power up. Ships that Earth had been building for 5 decades. Ships designed from technology that humanity had claimed they stumbled upon 3 years ago. That was a lie. Humanity had found a crashed alien probe 50 years earlier. They had studied it, reverse engineered it, and learned a terrible truth. The galaxy was not empty. It was full of life, and most of that life had weapons. So humanity had prepared in secret, in silence, building a defense force that no one knew existed. Every nation contributing, every government keeping the same secret, because humanity had learned something from their own bloody history. Peace was good. But peace only lasted when you had the strength to defend it. The Vraxian Empire thought they had encountered a primitive species that stumbled into FTL travel. They thought Earth was helpless. They thought wrong. Captain Sarah Chen brought the Pathfinder home 3 days later. The ship was battered, leaking air from a dozen holes running on emergency power. But she brought her crew home. When she stepped off the ship, Admiral Torres was waiting. He looked old and tired, but his eyes were hard. "Captain Chen, you did well," he said. "You gave us the warning we needed. You gave us their technology signatures. You gave us everything we need to be ready." "Ready for what, sir?" Sarah asked, though she thought she knew the answer. "Ready for war, Captain. Because they're coming. Our deep space monitors picked up their fleet 2 days ago. 200 ships heading for Earth." Sarah felt cold. 200 ships, sir. We killed 17 of their people. We can't match those numbers." Torres smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "Captain Earth has been preparing for this since before you were born. Let me show you something." He led her to an observation deck. Through the window, Sarah could see orbital space above Earth, and what she saw took her breath away. Ships, hundreds of ships, massive warships that dwarfed the Pathfinder, sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons. Ships that should not exist if humanity had only achieved FTL 3 years ago. "How?" she whispered. 50 years, Captain. We've been building for 50 years. Every nation working together. The greatest secret in human history." Torres looked out at the fleet. "The Vraxians think they're coming to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they're about to discover what happens when you threaten humanity." Sarah thought of her crew. The 17 who died. The 26 who survived. She thought of the Vraxian officer who had laughed at humanity's defiance. "Good," she said quietly. "Let them come. Let them learn." Above Earth, the fleet continued to grow as more ships rose from hidden shipyards. The Vraxian Empire was coming to teach humanity a lesson, but humanity was ready to teach them one instead. Fleet Admiral Korvac studied the holographic display with 4 of his 6 eyes. The primitive planet called Earth rotated slowly before him, looking blue and green and completely defenseless. Behind him, 200 Vraxian warships waited in formation, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. "This seems excessive," Junior Intelligence Officer Thrick commented. She was young, her carapace still showing the bright colors of youth. 200 warships for one primitive world. The report says they only achieved FTL travel 3 years ago. Korvax clicked his mandibles in what passed for a Vraxian laugh. "You've never done subjugation duty before, have you?" "Thrick, no, sir. This is my first assignment." "Then let me educate you." Korvax pulled up the intelligence file on humanity. "These primitives are perfect examples of why we send overwhelming force, even to weak worlds. Look at their political structure. The hologram shifted to show Earth's surface divided into different colored sections. Hundreds of them. They're fragmented," Korvax continued. "Over 200 separate nations. They fight each other constantly. Wars, territorial disputes, trade conflicts. They can't even unite their own species, let alone stand against the Empire. But fractured species are dangerous because they're unpredictable. Send too few ships and they might get lucky. Send overwhelming force and they surrender immediately." Thrick studied the data. "It says here, they have nuclear weapons, primitive atomic fission devices. Exactly. Dangerous enough to their own kind, harmless to our shields. But desperate primitives do desperate things. 200 ships ensures they never get desperate. They see us. They realize resistance is futile. They submit clean and simple." Korvax dismissed the hologram. "We'll be done here in a week. Standard subjugation protocols. Destroy their military satellites. Demonstrate our firepower on an uninhabited moon, and watch them beg to join the Empire." "What about the ship that escaped? The Pathfinder?" Korvax waved a manipulator dismissively. Contact Officer Zith Rain was too gentle. He only fired a warning shot. The humans interpreted this as a grave insult and fled home to hide. Typical primitive behavior. When they see our full fleet, they'll understand the reality of their situation. "Sir, the fleet is ready to jump," the navigation officer reported. "Excellent. Plot course directly to Earth orbit. Let's make this quick and get back to civilized space. I have tickets to the Vex Opera next week that I don't want to miss." The 200 Vraxian warships tore holes in space and disappeared, leaving the empty space behind them silent and still. They had no idea they were being watched. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, in a facility that didn't appear on any map, sensor arrays tracked the Vraxian fleet approach. The data flowed instantly to Earth Command, where Admiral Torres stood before a massive tactical display. 200 ships confirmed, the tracking officer reported. Arrival in Earth orbit estimated in 6 hours. Size comparison to our vessels? Torres asked. Their capital ships are approximately 70% the size of our dreadnoughts. Smaller craft range from destroyer to cruiser class by our standards. Total tonnage favors them by about 15%. Torres nodded slowly. 50 years of preparation came down to this moment. 50 years of every nation on Earth, working together on the greatest secret in human history. 50 years of building ships in hidden orbital yards, training crews in simulators that officially didn't exist, developing weapons that were supposed to be impossible, all based on one crashed alien probe and the terrifying knowledge it brought. Humanity was not alone, and the galaxy was full of predators. What's the status of the fleet? Torres asked. All 500 ships are in position, sir, holding in stealth orbit on the far side of the moon. Crews are at battle stations. Weapons are charged. Point defense grids are online. Fleet Admiral Chen is ready for your signal. Torres allowed himself a small smile. Captain Sarah Chen had been promoted after bringing the Pathfinder home. Now she commanded Earth's entire defense fleet. Her brother had died on the Pathfinder. 17 others had died. The Vraxians were about to learn that humans remembered their dead. Sir, we're receiving multiple communications from the surface. The communications officer reported. Every news network on Earth is reporting strange activity. They've noticed our ships moving into position. They're asking questions. Lift the veil, Torres ordered. After 50 years, it's time the people of Earth knew the truth. Broadcast on all channels. Let everyone know what we've been preparing for. Around the world, television programs were interrupted. Internet streams cut to emergency broadcasts. Phone screens lit up with priority notifications. And the same message appeared everywhere in every language. Citizens of Earth, this is Admiral Richard Torres of United Earth Command. For 50 years, your governments have kept a secret. We are not alone in the universe. 50 years ago, we found evidence of alien life. Evidence that showed us the galaxy was dangerous. So, we prepared every nation working together, building ships, training soldiers, creating defenses. Today, that preparation will be tested. An alien empire called the Vraxians is approaching Earth. They destroyed one of our ships. They killed 17 of our people. They believe we are primitives who will surrender without a fight. They are wrong. Today, humanity stands together. Today, we show the galaxy that Earth bows to no one. The broadcast ended. For a moment, the world was silent. Then, every city on Earth erupted in noise. Fear, anger, confusion, pride, all mixed together. But beneath it all, something else emerged. Something the Vraxians had not counted on. Unity. The fractured nations of Earth, always arguing, always fighting, suddenly remembered they were all human, all from the same world, all threatened by the same enemy. In New York, millions of people poured into Times Square, chanting support for the fleet. In Tokyo, prayers were offered at shrines for the crews. In Mumbai, in Lagos, in Sao Paulo, in Moscow, in Sydney, the story was the same. Humanity was scared, but humanity was also angry, and humanity was done being afraid. Admiral Torres watched the global response on a dozen screens. He saw the fear, but he also saw something the Vraxians would never understand. He saw a species that had climbed to the top of their world's food chain by refusing to give up, by being too stubborn to know when they were beaten. Sir, the Vraxian fleet is entering the solar system, the tracking officer announced. They're not using stealth. They want us to see them coming. Of course they do, Torres said quietly. They want us to be terrified. They want us to surrender before the first shot is fired. Standard Imperial intimidation tactics. But they made one mistake. What's that, sir? They assumed our fear would make us weak. They don't understand that sometimes fear makes humans dangerous. On the bridge of her flagship, the UES Defiance, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen Watch the Vraxian fleet emerge from faster-than-light travel. 200 ships, massive and powerful, moving with the confidence of an empire that had never lost a war. Her tactical officer counted them off. Confirmed 200 vessels, 50 capital ships, 100 cruisers, 50 destroyers. They're moving into a standard encirclement pattern around Earth. They're not even scanning for threats, her sensor officer added. No active sensors sweeping for hidden ships. They think we're helpless. Sarah thought of her brother, thought of the 17 others who had died on the Pathfinder, thought of the Vraxian officer who had laughed at humanity's defiance. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Maintain stealth positions. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they've already won. She paused, then added quietly. And then we show them what humans do when someone hurts our family. 500 human warships hung in the darkness behind Earth's moon, invisible to Vraxian sensors. Ships that had been built with technology, reverse-engineered from that crashed probe 50 years ago. But humanity had not just copied alien technology. They had improved it, made it better, made it deadlier. Because humans were very good at making weapons. 5,000 years of constant warfare had taught them that. Fleet Admiral Korvax watched Earth grow larger on his view screen. Such a small world, so insignificant. And yet the humans had made him bring 200 ships. Waste of resources, but orders were orders. "Sir, we're in position," his navigation officer reported. "Orbital encirclement complete. The planet is surrounded. Any sign of military resistance?" "Negative, sir. We're detecting their primitive satellites, communications networks, space stations that appear to be civilian research facilities, but no warships, no defense platforms, nothing." Korvax clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "As expected, open a channel to the planet. Let's get this over with." "Channel open, sir." Korvax straightened in his command chair and activated the communication system. His voice would be broadcast to every corner of the planet below. "Humans of Earth, I am Fleet Admiral Korvax of the Vraxian Imperial Navy. Your ship, the Pathfinder, trespassed in Imperial space. You showed defiance when you should have shown respect for this insult. We have come to teach you the price of defying the Empire." He paused for effect. "You see our fleet? 200 warships surround your world. You have no defense, no escape. Your choice is simple. Submit to the Empire and be allowed to live as a subject species, or resist and be destroyed. You have 1 hour to surrender. If you resist, we will demonstrate our power by destroying your moon. Then we will destroy your cities until you beg for mercy." He closed the channel and settled back in his chair. "Mark the time, 1 hour. Then we start with their moon. A few megatons of kinetic bombardment should make the point clear. On Earth, billions of people heard Korvax's ultimatum. Some panicked, some prayed, some simply waited to see what would happen. But in the command centers, in the military bases, in the ships orbiting behind the moon, humanity did not panic. Humanity prepared. Admiral Torres stood before the global communication system. Every leader of every nation on Earth was connected to this call. Presidents, prime ministers, kings, chancellors, all of them waiting for his words. "The Vraxians have given us 1 hour, Torres said calmly. "They think we'll use that hour to debate, to argue among ourselves about whether to fight or surrender. They think we're too fractured to make a decision. They're wrong. I need to know, are we united? Do we stand together?" One by one, the leaders answered. The President of the United States, the Premier of China, the Chancellor of Germany, the Prime Minister of India. Dozens of voices speaking different languages, but all saying the same thing. "We stand together. We fight. Earth does not surrender." Torres nodded slowly. "Then, it's decided. Admiral Chen, the fleet is yours. Show them what humanity is made of." Behind the moon, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen received the authorization. She looked at her crew, saw their determination, saw their anger, saw their pride. "All ships," she broadcast on the fleet channel, "prepare to decloak, launch all fighters, charge all weapons, target every single Vraxian ship simultaneously. When I give the order, we hit them with everything we have. Remember the Pathfinder. Remember our 17. Today, the galaxy learns that you don't mess with humanity." 500 human warships began to move. Their stealth systems deactivated, their weapons powered up. their targeting computers locked onto every Vraxian vessel in orbit. On the bridge of his flagship, Fleet Admiral Korvax was reviewing the subjugation protocol when his sensor officer suddenly screeched an alarm. "Sir, contacts. Multiple contacts. Ships, decloaking behind the moon." "What? How many ships?" The sensor officer's manipulator shook as he read the data. 500 ships, sir. 500. And their power signatures by the void. They're reading power output 3 times our capital ships. "Sir, that's impossible." The intelligence report said they only achieved FTL 3 years ago. They shouldn't have this technology. Korvax stared at his display in disbelief. 500 human warships appeared on his screen, moving into formation with a precision that spoke of years of training. Not months. Not even a few years. This was a fleet that had been preparing for decades. "Sir, they're achieving weapons lock. All their ships are locking onto us simultaneously." "That's impossible," Korvax whispered. The intelligence was wrong. The intelligence was all wrong. His communication officer's voice shook as she spoke. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through." A human woman appeared on the view screen. She wore a military uniform, her face hard and angry. Behind her, the bridge of a warship that looked more advanced than anything the Vraxian Empire had. "Fleet Admiral Korvax," she said, her voice cold as ice. "I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You killed my brother. You killed 16 others on the Pathfinder. You came to my world thinking we were helpless. You were wrong." Korvax found his voice. This is impossible. Your species only achieved FTL 3 years ago. You shouldn't have this technology. You shouldn't have these ships." Sarah smiled, and it was a terrible smile. "That's what we wanted you to think. The truth. We found alien technology 50 years ago. We've been preparing for this day ever since. We knew the galaxy was dangerous. We knew species like yours existed. So, we built, we prepared, we waited. And now you've given us a reason to show you what we've been preparing for. You deceived the entire galaxy. We learned from you," Sarah replied. "We studied every species we could find information on. We learned your tactics, your strategies, your weapons, and we designed everything specifically to counter what you do. Our ships are faster, our weapons hit harder, our defenses are stronger. We spent 50 years learning how to beat you." Korvax felt fear for the first time in his long military career. 500 ships, all more powerful than his own, all locked onto his fleet, all ready to fire. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. Sarah's expression did not change. "You gave us 1 hour to surrender. We're giving you 1 minute. Leave our space. Return to your empire. Tell them that Earth is protected. Tell them that humanity does not bow. Tell them that if they come here again, we will not be merciful." She paused. "You have 1 minute, starting now." The channel closed. Korvax looked at his fleet. 200 ships against 500. Ships that were outmatched in every category. He had come here expecting an easy victory. Instead, he had walked into a trap 50 years in the making. "Sir, orders?" his first officer asked quietly. Voxak made the hardest decision of his career. "Fleet. This is Admiral Korvax. Disengage weapons. Plots course back to Imperial space. Maximum speed, sir. We can't just weapons. That is an order." Korvax roared. "We are outmatched. Retreat now before they open fire." The Vraxian fleet began to turn away from Earth, but they were too slow. "Admiral Chen," Sarah's tactical officer reported, "the Vraxians are powering weapons on several ships. They're planning to fire on our cities before they run." Sarah's eyes went cold. "Target those ships specifically. Fire." The human fleet opened up. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams cut through the darkness. And 10 Vraxian ships exploded in balls of fire and shrapnel. The rest of the Vraxian fleet jumped to FTL immediately, fleeing Earth space in chaos and terror. Sarah watched them go. Then she opened a channel to Earth. "This is Admiral Chen. The Vraxian fleet has retreated. Earth is safe. The enemy came to conquer us. Instead, they learned that humanity protects its own." Around the world, billions of people erupted in cheers. The jump from Earth to the nearest Imperial outpost took 3 days. 3 days of silence on the Vraxian flagship, as Fleet Admiral Korvac sat in his command chair and stared at nothing. His crew moved quietly around him, speaking in whispers, avoiding his gaze. They had retreated. The proud Vraxian Imperial fleet had run away from primitives, from humans, who were supposed to be weak and fragmented. Ships that shouldn't exist had appeared from nowhere. Weapons that shouldn't be possible had destroyed 10 of his vessels in seconds. And worst of all, the humans had let them go, had shown mercy when they could have destroyed the entire fleet. That mercy felt worse than any defeat. Junior Intelligence Officer Thrick approached carefully. Her carapace had lost its bright colors during the journey. Now she looked as dull and gray as the older officers. "Sir, we're approaching the outpost. They're requesting our sensor logs of the Earth engagement." "Send them everything," Korvac said quietly. "They need to know what we found, what the humans really are." The logs were transmitted. 30 minutes later, Korvax received an urgent message. "Priority Alpha, the highest level of Imperial communications. Fleet Admiral Korvax, you are ordered to proceed immediately to the Imperial homeworld. You will present your findings directly to the High Council. Do not speak to anyone else about Earth or the humans. This matter is now classified at the highest level." Korvax closed the message and laughed bitterly. Of course it was classified. The Empire could not let other species know that a supposedly primitive world had frightened off an Imperial fleet. It would make them look weak. The truth was worse. They were weak, at least compared to humanity. The journey to the Imperial homeworld took another week. During that time, Korvax reviewed the sensor logs over and over, trying to understand how he had missed the signs, how the intelligence had been so wrong. The human ships were not cobbled together from recent discoveries. They were sophisticated, well-designed, perfectly maintained, the kind of ships that took decades to develop and build. Their tactics were not the wild desperation of a species fighting for survival. They were calculated, precise, the result of extensive training and planning. Everything about the encounter screamed preparation. The humans had been ready, not just ready, but specifically ready for the Vraxian Empire. Their weapons, their defenses, their tactics, all designed to counter Vraxian technology. How long had they been watching? How much did they know? The questions haunted Korvax as his damaged fleet limped toward the homeworld. On Earth, the celebrations continued for days. Every city on the planet was alive with people dancing in the streets, singing songs of victory, celebrating humanity's first contact with alien life, and humanity's first military victory against an alien threat. But in the command centers, the mood was more cautious. Admiral Torres stood before a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Vraxian territory. It was massive. Hundreds of systems, thousands of worlds, and Earth sat right on the edge of it all. A tiny blue dot in a sea of red. "We won the battle," Torres said to the assembled military leaders. "But we haven't won anything else. The Vraxians have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, resources from hundreds of conquered worlds. We showed them we can fight, but we also showed them we're a threat. The question is, what will they do now?" General Louis of the Chinese Space Force studied the display. "They have 3 options. They could leave us alone, decide we're too dangerous to fight. They could negotiate, try to establish diplomatic relations, or they could come back with overwhelming force to eliminate the threat we represent. Which would you do?" Torres asked. "If you were them," Louis considered, "I would study us, learn everything I could, find our weaknesses, then I would build a fleet specifically designed to counter our advantages. It's what we did to them. So, we have time," Torres said. "The question is, how much time and what do we do with it?" Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "We do what we've always done, sir. We prepare. We build more ships. We train more crews. We reach out to other species in the galaxy and find allies, and we make sure that if the Vraxians come back, we're ready for them." "Agreed," Torres said. "But there's another issue we need to address. The rest of Earth. The people deserve to know the truth, all of it, not just about the Vraxians, but about everything we've been hiding for 50 years. Around the table, leaders nodded slowly. The secret was out. There was no going back. "Full disclosure," Torres ordered. Release all the information about the crashed probe, the technology we developed, the fleet we built, everything. The people of Earth need to understand what we're facing. Over the next weeks, humanity learned the truth. Learned about the probe that crashed in the Pacific Ocean in 1975. Learned how every nation had agreed to keep it secret and pull their resources. Learned about the hidden shipyards, the secret training facilities, the weapons development programs that had consumed trillions of dollars. Some people were angry about the deception, but most understood. If the governments had announced the discovery of alien technology and the existence of potentially hostile alien species, panic would have destroyed human civilization from within. The secret had been necessary, and the secret had saved them. But now, new questions emerged. What else was out there? How many alien species existed? Were they all hostile like the Braxians? Or were there potential friends among the stars? Admiral Torres authorized the construction of a new type of ship. Not warships, but exploration vessels. Fast, heavily armed for self-defense, but designed primarily for one purpose: making contact with other species, learning about the galaxy, finding allies. Because humanity had learned an important lesson from the Vraxian encounter, they were not ready to stand alone against an empire that controlled hundreds of worlds. They needed friends, partners, other species who might see value in an alliance with Earth. The first of these new ships, the UE's Ambassador, launched 3 months after the Vraxian retreat. Its mission: map the nearby systems, make contact with any other species it found, and gather intelligence about the greater galactic community. Captain James Park, promoted after his service on the Pathfinder, commanded the Ambassador. He stood on the bridge as his ship cleared Earth's orbit and prepared to jump to the first unexplored system. Plot course for the Kepler 442 system, he ordered. Let's see who else is out there. The Ambassador vanished into faster-than-light travel, carrying humanity's hopes for a more peaceful future. Behind them, Earth continued to prepare for war. On the Vraxian homeworld, Fleet Admiral Korvax stood before the High Council. 12 of the most powerful beings in the Empire, their ancient carapaces covered in ceremonial markings, their eyes cold and calculating. "Explain," High Counselor Vexthal commanded. His voice carried the weight of 1,000 years of imperial authority. "Explain how you lost 10 ships to a primitive species. Explain how you retreated from a world that our intelligence indicated was fractured and weak." Korvax kept his head high. He would not show weakness even in failure. The intelligence was wrong. "High Counselor, completely wrong. The humans are not primitive. They are not fractured. They have been preparing for contact with our empire for at least 50 years. "Impossible," another counselor said. "Our scouts reported they only achieved FTL travel 3 years ago." "That was a deception," Kiprovox replied. He activated a holographic display, showing the sensor logs from the battle. "Look at their ships. This is not technology developed in 3 years. This is technology refined over decades. Their tactics show extensive training. Their weapons are specifically designed to counter our defenses. They knew we were coming. They knew how we would fight, and they prepared accordingly." The council watched the logs in silence, watched 500 human ships appear from nowhere, watched them achieve simultaneous targeting locks on every Vraxian vessel, watched 10 Imperial ships die in the opening salvo. "How is this possible?" Vexthal whispered. "How could a precon species know about our empire, about our technology?" "I don't know," Korvax admitted, "but I have a theory. I believe they found something. Ancient technology, a crashed ship or probe, something they reverse-engineered and improved upon. Something that told them about the galaxy and the dangers within it. So they prepared," another counselor said slowly. "They saw the threat and unified their entire species to face it. Remarkable. Dangerous," Vexthal corrected. "A species that can keep such a secret for 50 years. That can build such a fleet without being detected. That can develop weapons specifically designed to counter our own. This is not a species we can simply conquer. This is a threat to the Empire itself." "What are your orders, High Counselor?" Korvax asked. Vexthal was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with decision. "We have 3 options. First, we could leave them alone. Let them have their small corner of space. But that sets a dangerous precedent. If other species learn that the Empire can be defied, our authority will collapse. The other counselors clicked their mandibles in agreement. Second option, Vexthal continued. We could attempt diplomacy, open negotiations, perhaps bring them into the Empire peacefully. But I think we all know how that would end. They would never submit, and we would look weak for trying. The third option, Korvax asked, though he already knew the answer. We destroy them, Vexthal said flatly. We build a fleet specifically designed to counter their advantages. We gather our full military might, and we eliminate Earth before they become a greater threat, before they have time to build more ships, make more allies, spread their dangerous ideas about resistance and independence. How large a fleet? Korvax asked quietly. 2,000 ships, Vexthal replied. 20% of our entire military. We will not make the mistake of underestimating them again. We will come with such overwhelming force that no amount of preparation can save them. Around the council chamber, the other counselors clicked their agreement. The decision was made. However, Vexthal added, we will not be hasty. We will take the time to study their technology, learn their tactics, develop specific countermeasures. This fleet will take 2 years to assemble and prepare. But when it arrives at Earth, the humans will have no chance of survival. And if they discover our preparations, Korvax asked. If they see the fleet being assembled, then we accelerate the timeline, Vexthal said coldly. But either way, the outcome is the same. Earth will burn, the humans will be exterminated, and the galaxy will remember what happens to those who defy the Vraxian Empire. Korvax bowed and left the council chamber. As he walked through the halls of the Imperial Palace, he thought about the human Admiral Chen, about her cold eyes and colder words, about the mercy she had shown when she could have destroyed his entire fleet. He wondered if she knew what was coming, if humanity was preparing, even now, for the storm that would arrive in 2 years. He hoped they were, because despite everything, despite his loyalty to the Empire, Korvax had developed a strange respect for the humans. They had done what no other species had done in 1,000 years. They had made the Vraxian Empire afraid. That deserved respect, even if it also demanded destruction. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other species watched and waited. The battle at Earth had not gone unnoticed. Sensor stations from a dozen different civilizations had detected the energy signatures, the weapons fire, the retreat of an Imperial fleet. Rumors spread through the galactic community like wildfire. A primitive species had defeated the Vraxians. An unknown world had ships more advanced than anything in Imperial space. A new power had emerged. Some species saw opportunity, others saw danger. But all of them began to take humanity seriously. On Earth, unaware of the massive fleet being prepared to destroy them, humanity continued its dual mission, building warships for defense, building explorer ships for contact with other species, preparing for war while hoping for peace. Admiral Torres stood in the lunar facility, watching construction crews work on the latest batch of dreadnoughts. 50 new ships, each more powerful than the last generation, each a testament to humanity's industrial capacity and determination. Sir, an aide approached with a data pad. We're receiving a signal. It's not Vraxian, it's something else, a new species. They're requesting permission to approach Earth for diplomatic contact. Torres felt his heartbeat faster. Another species, another first contact. This time hopefully a friendly one. What species? He asked. They call themselves the Arxor Confederation. They say they've been monitoring our conflict with the Vraxian Empire. They say they have information we need to hear about the Empire, about the galaxy, about threats we don't even know exist yet. Torres made a decision. Grant them permission to approach, but keep the fleet on standby. We've been surprised before. We won't be surprised again. Yes, sir. As the aide left, Torres looked back at the construction yards, at the ships being built, at the weapons being installed, at the crews training for the next battle. Humanity had won its first test, but the galaxy was watching now, and the Vraxian Empire was preparing its response. The question was, would 2 years be enough time? Would humanity be ready when the storm came? Torres didn't know, but he knew one thing for certain. Humanity would not surrender, would not submit, would not bow. If the Vraxians wanted Earth, they would have to burn for it. and humanity would make them pay for every meter of ground. The war for Earth's survival was just beginning. The Arxur diplomatic ship emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. It was smaller than the Vraxian vessels, sleeker, with smooth lines that reminded human observers of a dolphin. Beautiful where Vraxian ships were brutal, unidentified vessel. This is Earth Defense Command. The communication came through clearly. State your intentions. Ambassador Krell of the Arxur Confederation stood on the bridge of his ship and responded immediately. Unlike the Vraxians with their harsh clicking language, the Arxur spoke in soft musical tones that the translation software rendered smoothly. Earth Defense Command. This is Ambassador Krell of the Arxur Confederation. We come in peace, and with information vital to your survival. We request permission to meet with your leadership. What we have to tell you cannot wait. On Earth, Admiral Torres listened to the message with his senior staff gathered around him. Fleet Admiral Chen was there, along with General Li Si, and representatives from every major nation on Earth. What do we know about them? Torres asked. Very little, sir, Intelligence Officer Martinez replied, pulling up what limited data they had. The Arxur Confederation appears to be a coalition of several species. Our deep space monitors have detected their ships in nearby systems, but they've never approached Earth before. They seem to avoid Vraxian territory. That's interesting, Chen said. They avoid the Vraxians. That could mean they're afraid of them, or they're smart enough not to provoke them, or they're enemies, Louis added. The enemy of our enemy might be our friend. Torres considered the options. Let them approach, but keep the fleet ready. Admiral Chen, I want 50 ships shadowing them at all times. If they make any hostile move, destroy them immediately. Yes, sir. 2 days later, Ambassador Krell's ship landed at the newly constructed diplomatic complex in Geneva. It had been built hastily after the Vraxian encounter, a place where humanity could meet with alien species on neutral ground. Admiral Torres, accompanied by representatives from the United Nations, waited as the Arxur ship's doors opened. What emerged surprised them. Krell was tall, nearly 7 feet, with silver-blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. His eyes were large and kind, his movements graceful. He looked nothing like the Vraxians, with their hard carapaces and cold insect features. The Arxur looked almost friendly, but Torres had learned not to judge alien species by their appearance. Admiral Torres, Krell said, his voice melodious even through the translator. Thank you for allowing me to visit your world. I come with urgent news and an offer of friendship. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Krell, Torres replied formally. Please come inside. We have much to discuss. They moved to a conference room designed for interspecies communication. Krell settled into a chair modified for his taller frame, and Torres sat across from him with his staff arranged along the table. You said you have information vital to our survival, Torres began without preamble. We're listening. Krell's expression grew serious. First, let me say that the Arxur Confederation watched your encounter with the Vraxian Empire with great interest. What you accomplished was remarkable. No species in recorded history has defeated a Vraxian fleet in their first contact. You should be proud. We're not proud, Torres said quietly. We're worried. We know the Vraxians will be back probably with more ships. Not probably, Krell said. Certainly. And not just more ships. Much more ships. Admiral, the Vraxian High Council is assembling an armada specifically designed to destroy Earth. 2,000 warships. The largest military operation the Empire has launched in a century. The room went silent. 2,000 ships. 10 times what they had faced before. How do you know this? Shen asked sharply. Because we have spies inside the Empire, Krell replied calmly. The Arxur Confederation has been at war with the Vraxian Empire for 300 years. A cold war, mostly small skirmishes, border disputes, but a war nonetheless. We watch them constantly, and we know about their plans for Earth. 300 years of war, Louis said slowly. Yet, you still exist. You haven't been conquered. Because we're careful, Krell explained. We never give them a reason to commit their full forces against us. We defend our territory, but we don't threaten their core worlds. We survive by being too troublesome to fully conquer, but not threatening enough to require extermination. That's not the life we want for humanity, Torres said firmly. I know, Krell replied. And you won't have to live that way because you have something we don't have. Something that could change the balance of power in this galaxy. What's that? Your technology, Krell said simply. Your ships are more advanced than anything the Arxer Confederation has. More advanced than anything the Vraxian Empire has. And you developed it all in 50 years. That's unprecedented. With your technology and our knowledge of the Empire, we could form an alliance that would make the Vraxians think twice about attacking either of us. Torres leaned back in his chair. An alliance. It made sense, but it also came with risks. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador? Krell pulled up a holographic display. It showed the galaxy with various regions marked in different colors. Red for Vraxian territory, blue for Arxer space, and a tiny green dot for Earth. The Arxer Confederation has 37 member species across 42 systems. We have resources, industrial capacity, and 300 years of experience fighting the Vraxians. What we lack is advanced military technology. Your weapons, your ships, your tactics, they're superior to ours. You want us to share our technology, Chen said, in exchange for full membership in the Confederation. Krell confirmed. You would gain allies, trading partners, and access to resources from dozens of worlds. You would gain intelligence about the Empire and the other species in the galaxy. And most importantly, you would gain safety in numbers. The Empire won't attack Earth if it means going to war with the entire Confederation. Or they'll attack all of us at once, Torres countered. Perhaps, Krell admitted, but that would require committing nearly their entire military. It would leave their core systems vulnerable. It's a risk they won't take lightly. He paused. Admiral, I'm not going to lie to you. This alliance carries risks, but the alternative is facing 2,000 Vexian warships alone. Can Earth survive that? Torres looked at his staff, saw the concern on their faces. 2,000 ships was beyond anything they had prepared for. They had 500 ships now, with construction underway for 200 more. But 700 ships against 2,000. The numbers didn't work. We need to discuss this among ourselves, Torres said. How much time do we have before the Vraxian Armada arrives? Based on our intelligence, they'll need 2 years to assemble and prepare the fleet. Maybe less, if they accelerate the timeline. But I should tell you something else, Admiral. The Empire isn't your only concern. What do you mean? Krell's expression grew darker. The galaxy is not a friendly place. The Vraxian Empire is the largest and most aggressive species. But they're not the only predators. There are others. Species that enslave entire worlds. Species that destroy civilizations for sport. Species that see humans as nothing more than resources to be harvested. He looked directly at Torres. Your ships made a lot of noise when they fought the Vraxians. Every major species in this region of space knows about Earth. Now some will want to be your friends. Others will want to conquer you. And a few will want to study you to find out how you developed such advanced technology so quickly. So we're targets, Torres said flatly. You've always been targets, Krell replied. You just didn't know it. The only question is whether you face these threats alone or with allies at your side. Torres stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Geneva skyline. Millions of people going about their lives unaware of the dangers lurking in the stars. Unaware that their world had become a target for multiple alien species. I need to consult with Earth's leadership, Torres said finally. This decision affects all of humanity. We'll give you an answer within 48 hours. I understand, Krell said, standing as well. But Admiral, let me give you one more piece of advice. The galaxy respects strength. Your victory against the Vraxians has earned you respect. But respect without allies is just another form of isolation. Don't let pride prevent you from accepting help when it's offered. After Krell left, Torres called an emergency meeting of the World Council. Every nation's leader appeared on holographic displays, filling the conference room with images from around the globe. You've all heard Ambassador Krell's proposal, Torres began. We need to make a decision. Do we join the Arxer Confederation or do we stand alone? The debate that followed was intense. Some leaders favored the alliance, seeing it as Earth's best chance for survival. Others were suspicious, worried that the Arxer would exploit humanity or steal their technology. The President of the United States spoke up. We've been independent for our entire history. Every nation here values its sovereignty. Can we really trust an alien confederation we just met? Can we really stand alone against 2,000 enemy ships? The Premier of China countered. We're not talking about giving up our independence. We're talking about joining a coalition for mutual defense. Nations on Earth have done this for centuries. But these aren't human nations, the Prime Minister of India pointed out. These are alien species with their own agendas. How do we know the Arxur won't use us as cannon fodder against the Vraxians? General Leeway spoke up. I've been analyzing the Arxur's military capabilities based on what we've observed. Their technology is roughly equal to the Vraxians, maybe slightly inferior, but they've survived 300 years of conflict through careful strategy and defensive warfare. That suggests they're cautious, not aggressive. They want us as allies, not as soldiers to throw at their enemies. What's your recommendation, Admiral Torres? The President asked. Torres thought carefully before answering. He thought about the 17 people who died on the Pathfinder, about the 10 Vraxian ships they had destroyed in retaliation, about the 2,000 ships that would come seeking revenge, about the other species in the galaxy, watching and waiting. My recommendation is that we accept the alliance, Torres said firmly, but with conditions. We share our technology gradually, not all at once. We maintain control of our own military forces. We have equal voting rights in Confederation decisions, and we make it clear that Earth's sovereignty is non-negotiable. And if the Arxur don't accept our conditions, the Chancellor of Germany asked, then we negotiate until they do, Torres replied. Or we prepare to face the Vraxian armada alone. But I believe the Arxur need us as much as we need them. Our technology could tip the balance in their centuries-long conflict. They'll accept our terms, the vote was called. One by one, the world's leaders cast their votes. It wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. Earth would join the Arxur Confederation on humanity's terms. 2 days later, Ambassador Krell returned to the diplomatic complex. Torres presented him with Earth's conditions for joining the Confederation. Krell read through them carefully, then smiled. These terms are acceptable, he said. In fact, they're very similar to the terms other species negotiated when they joined. The Confederation believes in the sovereignty of its members. We're not an empire. We're an alliance of equals. Then we have an agreement, Torres said, extending his hand. After a moment's hesitation, Krell reached out and shook it. The first human Arxur handshake in history. Welcome to the Confederation, Admiral Torres. Together, we'll show the Vraxian Empire that their age of unopposed conquest is over. Over the following months, Earth's integration into the Arxur Confederation began. Diplomatic missions were exchanged. Trade agreements were signed. Human engineers began sharing their technology with Confederation scientists, while Arxur specialists taught humans about galactic politics, alien species, and the complex web of alliances and conflicts that defined the galaxy. And most importantly, military planning began in earnest. Human and Arxur strategists worked together to develop a defensive plan for when the Vraxian armada arrived. Construction of new ships accelerated on both Earth and Arxur worlds, with humans providing designs and the Confederation providing raw materials and manufacturing capacity. Admiral Chen took personal command of the joint training operations. Human pilots flew alongside Arxur crews, learning each other's tactics and building trust. It wasn't always easy. Cultural differences caused misunderstandings. Language barriers created confusion. But slowly, steadily, two species who had never met before began to function as a unified military force. 6 months after joining the Confederation, Earth launched its first joint military exercise with Arxur forces. 100 human ships and 100 Arxur ships conducted simulated combat operations against computer-generated enemy forces modeled on Vraxian tactics. The results were promising. The combined fleet showed a level of coordination that surprised even the most optimistic observers. Human aggression and advanced technology, combined with our experience and strategic thinking, created a force greater than the sum of its parts. We might actually have a chance, Chen told Torres after the exercise. If we can get our numbers up, if we can convince the rest of the Confederation to commit forces to Earth's defense, if we have enough time to prepare. A lot of ifs, Torres observed. Yes, sir, but more hope than we had 6 months ago. Torres nodded. 6 months ago, Earth stood alone against the galaxy. Now they had allies, friends, partners who would stand with them when the storm came. But the storm was coming. Across the galaxy in Vraxian space, the armada continued to grow. 2,000 ships gathering at staging areas, crews training specifically to fight human tactics, weapons being designed to counter human technology. The Vraxian Empire had never forgotten a defeat, never forgiven an insult, and Earth had given them both. The clock was ticking. The war was inevitable. The only question was whether humanity and its new allies would be ready when it arrived. The warning came 18 months after Earth joined the Arsur Federation. A deep space monitoring station detected the first signs of the Vraxian Armada mobilizing. Not 2,000 ships, 3,000. The Empire had increased the size of the attack force by 50%. Admiral Torres stood in the war room beneath Geneva, studying the tactical display with grim determination. Around him, holographic projections showed Confederation leaders from dozens of worlds. The full council assembled to discuss Earth's defense. 3,000 ships, Ambassador Krell said quietly. They're not taking any chances. This is the largest military operation the Empire has launched in 200 years. How many ships can the Confederation commit to Earth's defense? Torres asked directly. The question hung in the air. The various species exchanged glances through their holographic projections. Finally, High Counselor Threx of the Confederation spoke. She was from a species called the Menturi, small and bird-like, but her voice carried authority. The full Confederation Council has voted. 3 said, "We will commit 1,000 ships to Earth's defense. Along with your 1,000 ships, that gives us 2,000 total, against their 3,000. Still outnumbered," Fleet Admiral Chen observed. "Yes," Threx acknowledged. But the vote was not unanimous. Some species worry that committing so many ships to Earth will leave our own worlds vulnerable. Others fear that this battle will trigger a full-scale war with the Empire that we cannot win. But they voted to help us anyway. Torres said, "We appreciate that more than you know." "We're not helping you out of charity, Admiral," Threx replied. "We're helping you because Earth represents something that hasn't existed in this galaxy for a very long time. Hope. Hope that the Empire can be defeated. Hope that species can resist and survive. If Earth falls, that hope dies. So we fight not just for your world, but for our own future." Torres nodded slowly. 000 ships against 3,000. The numbers weren't good, but they weren't impossible either, especially with human technology and Confederation experience working together. "When will the Vraxian Armada arrive?" he asked. 6 months, Ambassador Krell replied. "Maybe less. They're assembling at staging points along our border. Once they move, they'll reach Earth in less than 2 weeks. Then we have 6 months to finish our preparations," Torres said. "Admiral Chen, status report on our defenses." Chen pulled up a holographic display of the solar system. Earth sat at the center, surrounded by layers of defensive installations. "We've fortified the entire solar system," Chen explained. "Automated defense platforms orbit Earth and Mars. Mining facilities on the asteroids have been converted to produce ammunition and drones. We've established forward bases on the outer planets with long-range sensors, and we've laid 3,000 stealth mines throughout the system, programmed to target Vraxian energy signatures." "The mines were brilliant," Krell added. "A very human solution. Vraxians don't use stealth mines. They consider them dishonorable." "We're not interested in honor," Torres said flatly. "We're interested in survival." "What else?" "We've completed construction of the orbital defense stations around Earth," Chen continued. 10 stations, each armed with weapons capable of taking down capital ships. We've also retrofitted the moon base into a fortress. If the Vraxians want to bombard Earth from orbit, they'll have to get through our moon defenses first. And our fleet, 1,000 ships ready for combat. Another 200 in final construction stages, but they won't be ready in time. We have pilots trained, crews drilled, and enough ammunition for an extended engagement. We're as ready as we're going to be. Torres studied the display. It was impressive. In 18 months, humanity had transformed its solar system into a fortress. But would it be enough? "General Louis," Torres said, turning to the Chinese officer. "Your assessment." Louis had been quiet during the briefing, studying the data with his usual careful attention. Now he spoke. "The Vraxians will expect our defenses. He said they've had time to study our tactics from the first engagement. They'll come prepared for our speed and firepower, but they have one fundamental weakness that we can exploit. What's that? Threx asked. Their doctrine, Leo explained. The Vraxian Empire has been the dominant power in this region for centuries. They're used to overwhelming their enemies with superior numbers and firepower. They expect their opponents to defend, to fortify, to try to hold their ground. That's what we've been doing, and that's what they'll expect us to continue doing. You're saying we shouldn't defend? Chen asked, confused. I'm saying we should defend differently, Louis replied. He manipulated the holographic display, showing the solar system from a new angle. The Vraxians will come in force. They'll expect us to meet them in Earth orbit to defend our homeworld. Instead, I propose we meet them here. He highlighted a point between Jupiter and Saturn. We engage them in the outer system, away from Earth. We use our superior speed to hit and run, bleeding their fleet as they advance inward. We use the asteroid field and the outer planets as cover. We force them to fight on our terms, not theirs. And we make them pay for every meter of space they try to take. Guerrilla warfare, Torres said, understanding dawning. Space guerrilla warfare. Exactly, Louis confirmed. The Confederation fleet holds the line here between Mars and Earth. They're the anvil. Our more mobile human forces become the hammer, striking the Vraxian fleet from behind, from the sides, from above and below. We never stay still long enough for them to pin us down. We never give them the set-piece battle they're expecting. Krell studied the plan with growing excitement. This could work. The Vraxians have never faced this kind of defensive strategy. They'll be expecting a conventional fleet engagement. There's risk, Chen pointed out. If we're spread out across the system, they could push through our mobile forces and hit the Confederation fleet with their full strength. That's the idea, Li Wei said. We want them to focus on the Confederation fleet. While they're engaged there, our forces hit their supply ships, their support vessels, their command ships. We don't try to destroy their entire fleet. We try to bestow their ability to fight effectively. Torres looked around the room at the assembled faces, human and alien alike. This was it. The plan that would either save Earth or doom it. Does the Confederation Council approve this strategy? He asked Threx. The Menturi High Counselor clicked her beak thoughtfully. It's risky. It requires perfect coordination between human and Confederation forces. But yes, we approve. It's a better plan than simply trying to outfight them in a direct engagement. Then it's decided, Torres said. We have 6 months to prepare. Let's make them count. The months that followed were a blur of activity. Human and Confederation forces trained together endlessly, practicing the hit-and-run tactics that would be crucial to the defense. Supply lines were established, ammunition stockpiled, repair facilities built. Every nation on Earth contributed. Every factory worked around the clock. Every shipyard operated at maximum capacity, and people waited. Billions of humans and trillions of Confederation citizens across dozens of worlds, all watching the same clock, counting down to the day when the Vraxian Armada would arrive. Captain Sarah Chen, promoted from Fleet Admiral to Supreme Commander of Joint Forces, spent those months preparing not just the military, but also herself. She thought often of her brother, killed on the Pathfinder, thought of the 17 others who died that day. This battle was for them. For everyone who had died because the Vraxian Empire thought humanity was weak. The night before the expected arrival of the Vraxian fleet, Sarah stood on the observation deck of her flagship, the U.S. Defiance, looking out at the assembled human fleet. 1,000 ships, each one representing years of work, billions of dollars in resources, and the hopes of an entire species. Admiral Torres appeared beside her. He looked old, tired. The last 18 months had aged him. Can we win this? Sarah asked quietly. Torres was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I don't know. The numbers aren't on our side, but I know this. Humanity has never been very good at accepting defeat. We survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, nuclear weapons. We climbed to the top of Earth's food chain by being too stubborn to give up. If the Vraxians think we'll roll over and die, they're about to learn otherwise. I wish we could have found a peaceful solution, Sarah said. So do I, Torres replied. But the Vraxians didn't give us that option. They fired first. They killed our people. They decided Earth was theirs to conquer. Now they're going to learn that Earth belongs to humanity, and we don't share. The next morning, the long-range sensors lit up. 3,000 Vexian ships had entered the solar system at its edge near the orbit of Neptune. The armada was massive, spreading across millions of kilometers of space, blotting out the stars with their sheer numbers. On the bridge of his flagship, Fleet Admiral Korvac studied the sensor readings of the inner system. The humans and their Confederation allies were there exactly where he expected them. Good. Let them fortify Earth orbit. Let them think their defenses would save them. He had 3,000 ships, weapons specifically designed to counter human technology, tactics developed through months of simulated combat. The High Council had given him one order: destroy Earth completely. Leave nothing but rubble and a warning to any other species that thought to defy the Empire. All ships. This is Fleet Admiral Korvac, he broadcast across the armada. Advance to Earth orbit. Maintain formation. Destroy any resistance. Show no mercy. The Empire demands nothing less than total victory. The armada began to move. A wave of ships advancing inward toward Earth, like a storm of metal and death. They passed Neptune without incident, passed Uranus, reached the orbit of Saturn, and that's when the first mine exploded. It was a small explosion, insignificant against the size of the armada, but it was followed by another and another. And suddenly, hundreds of stealth mines were detonating throughout the fleet, hidden among the rings of Saturn, programmed to wait until the Rexian ships were in optimal positions. 27. Rexian ships died in the first 30 seconds, torn apart by explosions they never saw coming. Evasive maneuvers, Korvac roared. Scan for more mines. Destroy them before they detonate. But the human mines were designed to be nearly invisible until they activated, and there were 3,000 of them scattered throughout the outer system. While the Vraxian fleet was dealing with the minefield, the human mobile forces struck. 200 human ships appeared from behind Jupiter's moons, moving at maximum speed. They didn't engage the main fleet. Instead, they targeted the supply ships and support vessels at the rear of the Braxian formation. Sarah Chen led the attack personally. All ships, pick your targets. Fire and break off. Don't stay a fight. Hit them and run. The human ships unleashed their weapons and disappeared before the Vraxian escorts could respond. 30 supply ships exploded, or were crippled in the first pass. Reform the fleet, Korvac ordered, trying to maintain control as his carefully organized armada began to fragment under the unexpected attacks. All escorts protect the supply ships, but as soon as the escorts moved to defend the supply ships, another wave of human vessels struck from a different angle, targeting the command ships. This time it was chaos. The Vraxians had expected a defensive battle at Earth orbit. Instead, they were fighting a running battle across billions of kilometers, never able to pin down the enemy, always reacting instead of acting. Sir, we've lost over 200 ships, Korvac's tactical officer reported. Most of them support vessels. The humans are avoiding direct combat with our warships. I can see that, Korvac snapped. These aren't the tactics they used in the first battle. They've changed their strategy. What are your orders, sir? Korvac studied the tactical display. The human mobile forces were too fast to catch. But the Confederation fleet was still waiting in Earth orbit defending the planet. If he could reach them, he could engage in the kind of fleet battle his forces were designed for. Full speed to Earth orbit, Korvac ordered. Ignore the raiders. We'll deal with them after we destroy their main fleet. The Vraxian armada accelerated, pushing past the harassing attacks, taking losses, but maintaining formation. They passed Mars, past the asteroid belt, where more mines destroyed another 50 ships, and finally, they reached Earth orbit. The Confederation fleet was waiting. 1,000 ships in perfect defensive formation, backed by Earth's orbital fortifications and the weapons on the moon. Korvac smiled. Finally, a proper battle. All ships, engage the enemy fleet, he commanded. Show them the price of defying the Empire. 3,000 Braxian ships opened fire on 1,000 Confederation ships. It should have been a massacre, but the Confederation had learned from humanity. They didn't hold their ground and trade shots. They moved, constantly shifting positions, using Earth's orbital platforms for cover, coordinating their fire to target specific Vraxian ships one at a time. And while the main fleets battled, Sarah Chen's mobile forces struck again, this time hitting the Vraxian fleet from behind, targeting their engines and power systems. The battle raged for 6 hours. Space lit up with weapons fire and explosions. Ships died on both sides. The Vraxians pushed forward with their superior numbers, but they bled for every meter of space. Korvax watched his fleet take losses he had never imagined, not from overwhelming firepower, but from coordinated tactics and unorthodox strategies. The humans and their allies weren't fighting the way the Empire expected. They were fighting like desperate predators, all teeth and claws and refusal to die. After 6 hours, Korvax made the hardest decision of his life. All ships, this is Fleet Admiral Korvax. Break off engagement, retreat to the outer system, and regroup. His officers stared at him in shock. Sir, we still outnumber them. We've lost 800 ships, Korvax said flatly. Over a quarter of our fleet, and we haven't even reached Earth's surface. If we continue this assault, we'll lose half our ships taking the planet. That's unacceptable. We retreat, regroup, and plan a better strategy. The Vraxian armada began to withdraw, limping away from Earth orbit. Sarah Chen watched them go and opened a channel to the entire fleet, human and Confederation alike. All ships cease fire. Let them go. We've won. Tears erupted across every human ship. They had done it. Against 3,000 enemy vessels, they had forced the Vraxian Empire to retreat. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky and celebrated. Humanity had faced its greatest test and survived. But Sarah didn't celebrate. She looked at the casualty reports. 230 Confederation ships destroyed. 3,000 crew members dead. It was a victory, but an expensive one. And the Vraxians would be back. They always came back. Admiral Torres appeared on her communication screen, his face grave despite the victory. Well done, Supreme Commander. You saved Earth for now, Sarah replied. They'll regroup and return, probably with even more ships next time. Let them, Torres said. And for the first time in months, he smiled. Because next time, we'll be even more ready. And the time after that, and the time after that, the Vraxian Empire just learned that humanity doesn't give up. That lesson is going to cost them dearly. Across the galaxy, dozens of species received reports of the battle. The Vraxian Empire, the greatest military power in known space, had been defeated twice by the same primitive species. The implications were staggering. The balance of power was shifting. And Earth, the small blue world that no one had heard of 2 years ago, was at the center of that shift. The galaxy would never be the same.